Growing vegetables is a relatively late game thing in this war of mine, but it can be useful to have a character who makes it easier. Welcome back to a survivor's guide to this war of mine. Today we will be going over Irina. Irina is always grouped with her niece Lydia, but Lydia will get her own video. As with all the Guardian characters, Irina will be able to share a bed at night with her niece as she is trusted, and her mood will be heavily affected by how Lydia is doing. Outside of being a Guardian, she has the trait Green Thumb, which is all to do with growing vegetables. This trait allows her to grow vegetables with half the amount of water, which can be hugely useful later in the game. Unfortunately, this trait doesn't impact growing herbs, which will still be grown at full cost. Her other abilities are not too great. She only has 10 inventory slots, and has a combat grade of E with a guarding grade of D. She's therefore definitely a utility character, rather than a protective character. One positive is that she doesn't have any addictions, but she doesn't have any guitar skill either, so she is a pretty weak character with only a late game advantage. Finally, her personality is survivalist, where she will focus on staying alive and things that benefit the group rather than helping others or giving away resources. This can make it harder to make her content. Now that we've gone over her mechanics, we'll move on to her story, starting with her recruitment speech and then her good and bad story before moving on to the endings. Here we have the recruitment speech, which is actually spoken by Ivenji. Great, look, I have a favour to ask, but you won't regret it, I promise. I had to flee from my home with my daughter and sister, but I know some people who owe me. I just need to meet them and arrange for a place for us and sneak them through with some supplies. And I'll share them with you once I'm back for my ladies. We'll now move on to Irina's happy story. This place is definitely better than the street, but I wish we could still live in the house Ivenji built with or his family. It was small, but so nice, and the garden was just delightful. I used to spend most of my free time there when I moved in. There is absolutely no reason to worry about Ivenji. He's really resourceful. I'm sure he'll be back soon. His wife was mad to leave him. Perhaps she had been right when she had said it would be for the best for them to move to the country. But who knew this was coming? Lydia is lucky to have such a doting father. Well, were she mine, I'd be doting over her too. I try not to spoil her too much, but Ivenji should go about finding somebody suitable. And soon. She needs a proper mother. I can't imagine what's taking Ivenji so long, but he better throw a big party when he returns. Lydia is beside herself, and I just don't know how to appease her anymore. Well, we can only carry on and wait some more. We'll now look at Irina's sad story. Oh, things aren't really looking up, are they? We used to live in a really nice house my brother built, and to move here... This isn't a proper place for a child, although it's better than freezing in the street, I guess. I just hope I can make it a bit more bearable with some plants. I'm sure Ivenji knows what he's doing, but I'm starting to worry. Why hasn't he returned yet? He was always full of ideas, but some of them just stank, like marrying that harpy. The only good thing she ever did was leaving him. If only poor Lydia understood this. Ivenji has always been the perfect father. His daughter means everything to him. It's really troubling that he's away for so long. She misses him, poor dear. I worry that something serious must have happened to him. Why hasn't my brother married somebody suitable? Lydia wouldn't have to live without a mother, and I dread that I'll have to explain that to her if her father won't return for some time, if ever. Why has it happened to this poor child? So what happened to Ivenji? Do we know? Well, at the end of the game, you do get some endings, depending on how you played the game. If Irina dies in the war. Lydia cried for weeks for her aunt, and Ivenji was broken up upon learning about Irina's death. If Irina kills herself. Nobody expected Irina to take her own life. She didn't seem like the person capable of doing such a thing. If they decide to leave the shelter. Irina decided she would not stay a day longer in the shelter. She spent the rest of the war in a refugee camp. If you reject them at the door. Ivenji seemed like a resourceful guy. He must have managed to find some other temporary refuge for his ladies. If she makes it to the end of the war but with bad karma. Ivenji eventually managed to get back to her daughter and sister, but Irina couldn't forgive him for what, as she insisted on calling it, abandoning them. If she makes it to the end of the war but is depressed from the situation. When Ivenji managed to find his daughter and sister, Irina berated him for months for, as she said it, abandoning them, but she eventually got over it. And finally, if you managed to get her to the end of the war, in good spirits and without committing atrocities, after the fighting ceased, Avengi managed to make a return. When he related his ordeals to his sister, she forgave him instantly. So there we have Irina. I hope you found this helpful. If you have, please do like and subscribe, and let me know what your favourite game was with Irina. I'll see you next week when we look at the final non-story based adult character, Livia. Ta-ra.